What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another video. So in today's video, as you can tell by the title, as always, we are finally installing a downpipe on the GR Corolla. So as far as bolt-on goes, short of like a bolt-on turbo, the downpipe is probably the easiest slash cheapest way you could get horsepower out of your car. You know, the intake, you know, give or take. Some people say it does something, some people say it doesn't. That's neither here nor there. Exhaust probably definitely doesn't give you anything, just a cat back at least. But a downpipe is where you will gain the most power. Obviously, this isn't like the early 2000s anymore. You know, companies do not make catless downpipes, so you're definitely not going to get the maximum potential out of a downpipe as you would back in the early 2000s due to EPA and whatnot. So everything has to be made with a catalytic converter now. And high flow cats tend to fail, but anyways, that's a subject for a different time. So today we are installing an MST downpipe. So their workaround for having a high flow cat, you know, kind of restricting you, is to make it bigger, so it has a bigger flow rate. And I'll show you that here in a bit when I get to JTP Automotive. But yeah, so theirs is more of a universal design. I believe it is meant to fit both the GR Yaris and the GR Corolla. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I do know it's definitely meant to fit between the US spec GR Corolla and like the Australian spec or European spec, whatever it is. So like it has like this little bump here that the US won't need. So that you can just keep that kept off. So with that being said, I'm just kind of rambling on. I'm just going to go ahead, get this intro out of the way, head over to JTP and show you the downpipe. All right, guys, so we're here at JTP Automotive, and here it is, the MST downpipe. And as you can see, this sucker is huge. Here is the 5-inch catalytic converter I was talking about. So what they do to offset the fact that it is a cat is that they make it a wider surface area. Whether it works or not, I'm not 100% sure. It just bottlenecks down to a 3-inch right here. But they do say with this piece alone, just this piece, they gain 15 wheel horsepower on their dyno with the secondary cat still on. So that is the one downside about this downpipe, is that it does not come with the bottom half. So I had to get a different company to send me a mid pipe that will replace the factory mid pipe. So that's what I have right here. So this will delete the second cat, and supposedly you should gain a bit more horsepower by deleting that second cat. But this is what we have right here, the MST intake. So most companies right now that are making downpipes for this car are obviously based out of the US, and they're charging right around $1,800 for a downpipe, but theirs includes like the mid-pipe section. MST is only charging $900 something for this, but technically you don't get the mid-pipe. But just with this piece alone, you're gaining 15 wheel horsepower without a tune. Obviously, that can be maximized with a tune, probably gain next to like 20, 30 wheel horsepower just from this piece alone. Then if you add on the fact that you're going to be deleting the secondary cat, there's a whole nother range of horsepower right there. They do guarantee this high flow cat will last 2 years and no check engine light guaranteed. If you do get one, obviously, just go ahead and contact them. I'm sure they'll get that resolved as soon as they can. But yeah, guys, I'm going to let the car cool down. We're going to get up in the air. We're going to get the old downpipe out and get this new one in. All right, guys, so this isn't going to be a full DIY video. There are tons of videos out there for this. Basically, I'm just going to kind of run through it real quick. Obviously, you're going to have to get the mid pipe off. So that's going to require you taking these braces off right here. Then you're going to have to reach in there, kind of like undo all the brackets. I believe the drive shaft has to be unbolted. We may be able to snake it out. Some people are saying you could just take off the heat shield around the drive shaft. We'll see what happens, what needs to be done. But overall, this is going to be a long, tedious process to get these brackets off. So I'm going to put the phone down and then let Johnny get to work.
Here we go.
All right.
Yeah!
All right, so the drive shaft and the heat shields do need to be removed out of the way in order to squeeze the downpipe out of this tiny, tiny area. But yeah, so now that the factory cat is out, as you can see here, yeah, it's pretty big in itself. So if you want to go ahead and compare it, there we go, side by side. How this gains 15 horsepower, I don't know. I'm not the engineer, but it's probably, I would have to assume that the honeycombs in this one is a lot more fine, so it's probably harder for air to pass through compared to how like wider these honeycomb is. But anyways, I'm gonna have to go ahead and get the dowel pin from up there on top of the turbo, put it in here, so that way it lines up with the turbo itself, and yeah, we'll go ahead and get this one in. So we got everything out. Here's a side-by-side to everything I have. I have the factory downpipe and mid-pipe. I have the MST downpipe and then the aftermarket mid-pipe that I had to buy separately. As you can see here, here's the side-by-side comparison. Basically relatively the same. As I was mentioning earlier in the video, this is for European models. I think for the GR Yaris that they have to do with like some kind of pressure sensor that we don't have here in the US. So they said just go ahead and keep this capped off. So I believe like the reason that they don't include the mid pipe with this one is to like kind of make it universal between the Yaris and the Corolla, so that way you could just get your own mid pipe. They just have to kind of like, I guess they just kind of have to like make sure this is in a certain way, but like then again, I don't know. All I know is this is all that MST includes. So this alone with the factory mid pipe and still the secondary cat, this will make 15 wheel horsepower according to their claims. I'll put the dyno sheet up here that they provided for me. That's no tune, second cat, and the high flow cat. So we'll see. This one I'm getting rid of the secondary cat with this mid pipe right here. So we'll see how much more power feels like. 15 wheel horsepower. That's a good amount of power to feel to the wheels. That's no chump change, you know, just to change automatically. And that's like throughout the entire power band, you know, it's not like just peak horsepower.
Well,
if it was just peak horsepower, you're probably not going to feel it, right?
we're gonna find out.
All right, so to make a quick note real quick, we had to modify the factory bracket that is normally holding in this portion right here. We had to trim the top corner about 45 degrees because it was hitting the underside of the downpipe. So that's definitely something I'm gonna have to note to MST for them to hopefully address during the final production of this downpipe. Yeah, I'll show you once Johnny gets it all bolted in. So yeah, I don't know how well you could see it, but right here we had to trim it right there, that little corner piece. So hopefully that's enough to finally clear this downpipe right there. All right, so we got everything in. Johnny was able to cut it up just barely enough clearance. I don't know if you guys can see it, but that's how close it is to the downpipe. You can't see it through the backside, but it's barely rubbing it now. So, but everything's lined up. Hopefully the mid pipe lines up with no issue. But for right now, we're gonna go ahead and get the heat shield back on so we can get the drive shaft back on so we can go ahead and line up the mid pipe. So yeah, as far as like how hard this is, I would definitely say this is definitely a 5 out of 5. I do not recommend doing this on the floor. Could you do it on the floor? Sure, anybody could do anything on the floor, right? But if you don't have a lift, you don't have access to a shop, I just highly recommend go ahead and taking it somewhere. I think overall it's just going to be better that way. So it's just easier. All right guys, and there you have it. We're just buttoning everything up, putting the braces back on. The mid pipe is on, the down pipe is on. I went ahead and put the resonator back on because if you're just driving around without the resonator, this thing drones like crazy. But other than that, everything is on. Let's go ahead and get this down on the ground, give you guys a startup, and let's see how it sounds. now that you've heard how it sounded with the exhaust with the resonator pipe on, what do you say we go ahead and take this baby for a test drive? So far, no check engine light, which is a great sign. They do, like I mentioned earlier in the video, promise I think it's like a 2-year guarantee, 1 year, 2 years. Let me double check that, and if so, I'll just leave it in the description box down below. They do guarantee a 1 or 2 year warranty on the high flow cat, that it won't go out or cause a check engine light. And yeah, install was a bit of a pain. I do recommend you get a lift if possible, if you guys really want to try this yourself. If not, definitely just go ahead and hire somebody to do it. This took way longer than I thought it was going to. We had to cut off one of the brackets on the downpipe that wasn't being used for this specific model, because as I had mentioned, I believe they made it both for this and the GIRs, or maybe it's just this and like other like foreign country models like Australia or whatever that don't require that bracket. I do wish they also didn't add that bung to this. I mean, having a universal fit between 2 different cars did make it a little bit harder to install than I would have liked. So that is definitely a downside. But anyways, the car is, so far, no check engine lights. So let's go ahead and get on the open road and see how this feels. Go. Oh my gosh. Okay. It definitely feels a whole lot peppier. So it's not like a, oh my god, I'm gonna throw you into the back of your seat, that's where you're gonna stay feel, right? So they do only quote like 15 wheel horsepower with the downpipe alone. Now granted, that's with the stock mid pipe that has a secondary cat. So I did get rid of that. Does it feel at least 15 wheel horsepower faster? I would definitely say so, right? Like everybody who knows that a turbo car, once you upgrade the downpipe, you're gonna gain the most horsepower. Now it is kind of sad that nowadays companies just won't make a catless downpipe anymore. So having that first high flow cat is kind of a bummer. I could only imagine how much faster this car would be without it. But you know, that's neither here nor there, right? EPA, save the earth for future generations. I get it, yada, yada, yada. But just imagine if like somebody ever did offer a full catless downpipe that eliminates both cats. This car would be amazing. And this is without a tune, right? So mind you, like once tuning options become more readily available for me, I can only imagine how much more faster this car is going to feel. I believe Busher, without a tune, has just created their downpipe and exhaust system. They were making like right around 310 or 15 wheel horsepower and like 307 foot-pounds of torque, I believe is what they were boasting. And that's without an intake and without a tune. So you can get this car to at least 300 wheel horsepower, which I believe it needed from the get-go. If you guys have been watching my video, but 100% this downpipe was worth the effort. I do highly recommend it. I believe pre-orders go up at the end of this month, so I'll leave links down below where you can get it. As far as one concern I do seem to have is that it is like 50 degrees right now outside. So my coolant temp normally ranges when just kind of like driving around in this weather about 188-ish, 187, and that's like in like 60-ish degree weather. It's like 10 degrees, 15 degrees cooler than it normally is, and my coolant temps are right around 192, still rather low. But I do notice that I guess without the heat shield from the factory downpipe, that the heat is going out into the engine bay a lot more and maybe causing the coolant temps to rise a bit. I don't know. and it's still kind of like going up just a little bit, not too much. It was just went from like 194 to 196. It's fluctuating now. It's down to 192, but it is about 3 to 4 degrees warmer than it normally is in this temperature. So I guess that is one thing to note, is maybe before you install it, have it wrapped. I should have did that, but I just didn't think about it at the time. Have it wrapped like I did the exhaust, or maybe just have it like ceramic coated, a high temp ceramic coat by like somebody professional. And I don't mean like a car paint ceramic coat. There is a high temp ceramic coat for exhaust parts that you can do. So maybe if I have some time later on down the road, I'll take it off and send it off to get ceramic coated. But other than that, seems to be great so far. Highly recommend this downpipe, or just a downpipe in general, right? Like that seems to be the best bang for the buck for your money. This one is, as I mentioned earlier in the video, the cheapest on the market. Not by much, maybe by like a few $100s, but you don't get the mid pipe. So that is something, like if you want to make sure you can pass your state inspection guarantee, definitely just go with this one, because they do guarantee no check engine light, and it still retains a high flow cat and the secondary cat. So that's probably why it doesn't throw a check engine light, even though I believe other downpipes so far aren't throwing a check engine light. You know, you choose your poison. I definitely love the MST one. It is the cheapest one on the market. Maybe the hardest one to install, because it's so wide and has all those extra brackets that aren't needed on US models. And those are just my thoughts, right? So do your research, pick your poison, and yeah. So now, if you guys stayed to the end of this video, thank you so much. I'm going to go back to the shop, and then I'm going to go ahead and install the MBRP exhaust, because I know a lot of people don't have the AWE exhaust to like really gauge their interest, even though I know a lot of people seem to be interested in it. I'm going to show you what it sounds like with the MBRP as well, so that way everyone with the MBRP and doesn't feel like buying the exhaust has one, knows what it sounds like. So yeah, stick to the end, hear that sound clip, and until next time, guys, later.